It started.
You're doing this for hours.
No,
You're literally doing this for
I am
hours.
not.
You're literally doing this for hours.
Alright, Zane, as you called for this part of the agenda and this discussion. Figure to begin.
Oh, bro. Yo, take this.
Hello, everyone. So on Friday, myself, Francis, Patrick, and Mongoy had a meeting with Dr. Young, and I specifically wanted to meet with her about the situation I found out about in terms of like groups receiving funding from the VPSA office. So I had heard from student org leaders that they had asked like Dr. Young for funding, and that they had received money from that office as well. So the organizations that I do know that have funding are Monty Men and the mock trial team, and I kind of just want to have a conversation about like, is this sustainable? Like, how was this process brought up? And kind of just get your like feedback / discussion about it. So basically, the overall goal is to hire another position, which would be like a quote-unquote coordinator for intellectual sports. So it would be in charge of trying to obtain more resources and money. So in the meantime for that, there is about, I think she said about 10K that's being used to like fund organizations, but primarily, or it's only been used for intellectual sports, which again, there's no stipulations. I asked if there's a process for that. There's really no process for getting money, such as like Molly Men just emailed and talked about what they do with their finances and if there's any support and the money which is granted to them. So it's already been decided that the office would be hiring a position for intellectual sports, and I was not informed of this. I don't know if anybody in this room was informed. I just heard through student org leaders and conversations about this money being granted. So Francis and I also met on this in terms of like setting up a follow-up meeting and just talking about more of the details of this plan. But basically my concern with it is that we as student leaders weren't informed about this in terms of like money being given to student organizations, as we are the primary body that does that, and especially having that kind of like shared governance between us and other administrators within the university. I just thought that was kind of a misstep in communicating that to us, but also there's really no process to this, so there's really no stopping other organizations from asking the office for money, and so I just didn't know if you guys had heard about this or had any points or questions that maybe myself and Francis could take back to Dr. Young when we have a follow-up meeting. So
We'll be getting the exact numbers and hopefully from her about like what amount of money was given to specifically what works. And we'll hope to have a meeting with her within the next 2 to 3 weeks, because we want to get all the information, and so we're going to get the job description as well about this position, what's entailed, and all that stuff. Zane can bring that back next week. Hopefully, we'll get that information by then.
So I know you said do you know the exact like orgs that receive?
So, and I also forgot to mention the work group. So I haven't confirmed with her directly. I just know that I've heard Model United Nations, mock trial, and then recently I've also heard Ethics Bowl.
Ethics Bowl?
Yeah. So, but again, I will send her an email directly in terms of those. There was also, I don't know if anybody knows, but last year a petition was submitted by SGA along with 13 organizations and their advisors and leaders, talking about the need for more institutional support, whether that comes from the VPSA's office or kind of like joint work to bring that about. And there have been working group meetings going on that I was not informed about, that has been taking place between Dr. Young, organizations, and advisors. So I'm also trying to ask her if there's meeting minutes on those. But again, I think we were kind of left out in that process, and I think, you know, dealing directly with student organizations and more so dealing directly with being the main source of funding for student organizations, I think just kind of like caught me off guard personally about what's going on and what's being communicated to us, so.
Justin?
I mean, for the new coordinator position or whatever, it's actually pretty funny because I remember this is one of William Blake's ideas when he was going off on one of his tangents for Luke Court. This does seem to be like a problem with that, considering that we gave these clubs like funding already for intellectual sports specifically for the competitions.
Mm-hmm.
That money could have been given to like the others who need it, because we've had to make some cuts for them and like their memberships to like, you know, distribute everything fairly. But now it's like, and because we're not in the business of like retroactively taking funds, it's like, you know, like this whole situation with the Retriever Poets, like obviously they, like if we had known this would have happened, we could like use that money like for those other areas. I'm concerned also because you said like there's just no process, like intellectual sports can just ask, and so it's like, what does that do to our like relationship with finance board going down the line? Because it's like they can ask for money from us, but they can also just ask Nancy Young for money anytime. If she's just gonna like, you know, hand it out like candy or something, like it's like, is there even going to be a point going forward in like considering them under our domain? Like, do we even consider the request? Like, what do we even consider from the request when we know like this can just happen out of nowhere?
Yeah, definitely, and I think that was the bigger point of that. There is no process. I was even talking to leaders that were just like, yeah, we found out that like another organization had got money from our office, so we just sent an email as well explaining. So, and that was what was discussed, is that there is no process, and that this is like supposed to be just for this spring until that position is hired. But again, kind of reflecting and talking with Francis too, I mean, my position and my advocacy would be not to go through with that position, as, again, I haven't seen the position description, so maybe that will give you more context, but I personally see institutional support as more of like a collaborative effort in terms of bringing student life, student government, and departments and other stakeholders on campus to try to form maybe more formal structures rather than hiring a position that's going to cost a salary in terms of funds that could be used potentially for something else. So.
And like we all agree, it's kind of a problem, and Justin said everything. And I agree with that. So what do you want to do about it?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm looking for feedback in terms of like ways to address this. I mean, my personal thing was getting more of the facts from Dr. Young and Dr. Brown, who has the position description, but again, just meeting up and kind of expressing our concern and also expressing, I mean, my disappointment in terms of not being communicated with and being left in the dark when this area directly concerns this body. So.
I would say that we did have 4 of us there in the meeting, so it was kind of hard to really emphasize like how much this like really impacts SGA and how much concern there is from our part, and that's why I have been supporting Zane on this this week and into next as we get more information about the facts and really addressing, you know, Dr. Young about what the process is for the semester and how it's having consequences regardless if they're immediate or not and what that looks like. So I'm fully in support of Zane starting this conversation and engaging more of what our perspective is into this.
Nithya?
Do you have any idea of like, I guess when the clubs like either like ask for this money or receive or like, and like in relation to like our schedule?
Yeah, so again, I'm going to send, part of that email will be like when the clubs are received. And just because I also have a personal connection with Model U, and I guess, I feel like it was just said in a group, just because Model U received funding from us, but they also received enough funding to make the trip free, which I guess when I saw the message, it didn't really click to me, but then I guess I saw it maybe towards the end of break, like middle-ish towards the end of break. And then I just followed up on it being like, you know, that's like kind of like a large sum of money to make, or personally, I think, I haven't really inquired on what the actual numbers were, but, that's kind of when I found out about it, and then I like also just found out about Montreal, but I don't specifically know when those funds were requested and when the office actually like allowed them to be granted, so.
So then theoretically, does that mean that would hold, some of that would like hold back if they didn't use what?
Well, so I think what they requested was just like the difference.
Okay.
So,
They're gonna use up all the money that they can. If I may, limited discussion to new points, but I think the one thing to note from this board is, once you have the information, it'd be useful if we got it right away. And I think, not in any ways too forced or anything, but just kind of continuing to express the disappointment and like semi-frustration of the finance board, because I think we're all kind of feeling like we were just slithered around, if that makes sense. We were kind of just bypassed in terms of, it made our job, we were doing our jobs without the full information because of that. We're gonna go with Justin, then Zane, then Josue.
So this was, is Nancy saying that this was a one-time thing, or that's like my question, like, also like, I mean, I don't know, like, cause there's no like, I guess, written word saying that she can't like do this again, so like theoretically she could like, how that's gonna like affect our budget like going forward if we have to like sort of plan ahead if like any intellectual sports can just get money, it's like, what does that do to our pot for like next year and such?
Yeah, my impression and understanding of the conversation was that this would be like kind of transitioning, so there would be money set aside for this semester, and then once that coordinator is hired, it would be under their discretion to either engage on campus or outside campus in terms of raising funds or coordination of such to make up that amount of money. I didn't get the impression that this would be a continuing thing in terms of money being handed to organizations. I didn't get that.
Did not.
So wait, would we be working alongside the coordinator to get the clubs like as much money as we can?
I have no idea. Again, I'd have to look at the position description, and again, it would be a position most likely created and directed under her office, so that would be to their discretion of how they communicate with us.
I thought it was through campus.
Josue and Courtney. Josue and
Hello, Josue here, Assistant Speaker of the Senate. I'm still trying to get familiar with sort of like the way student orgs get funding, but from what I understand, it has been encouraged that student orgs seek additional funding elsewhere, correct? Right, and I think historically I've seen like other student orgs, they'll reach out to, for example, different departments like the English department or the history department to get like extra funds to kind of pad their budgets. Would this not fall under that sort of like situation that these student orgs are just trying to get additional funding somewhere else because they feel like they're not getting sufficient funds here?
I would say to that point, in terms of direct department support, usually when we're having conversation with people, they're including their budget, they'll be like, oh, we're collaborating with other organizations, or we have support from the English department, or the science department, which is completely fine, but I guess under this condition, there's the vice president for student affairs is in charge of like all student type activities, so to say that I'm going to give money to intellectual sports, what prevents a cultural organization or an engineering organization coming in and being like, you know, we need a $500 difference because finance board didn't fund everything. I mean, her precedent was that they were just going to be giving money to intellectual sports in this capacity, but it's not really equitable in that manner because.
I mean, by the same like logic, doesn't, for example, also like these departments, they give funding to orgs that relate to like what they like teach and stuff like that as well?
So that precedence was that there are certain departments that did not fund their clubs at all. And then on top of that, in her words, there's SGA did not fund them, and so it became a recruitment thing as well. She did talk about recruitment and how orgs getting, and specifically intellectual sports, getting invited to go to conferences and invitationals and having to turn that down purely because they weren't funded by either the department or SGA. She didn't think was, again, she didn't think that was okay, and so that pulling money so that they could, for example, mock trial, going to an invitational that the school has never been invited to, would not only be like an honor for the school, but also a boosted recruitment so they can advertise that. So I think it was multiple reasons stated, not necessarily all of them correlated. But again, this is a process of obtaining more information so that we do know what we're responding with.
Okay, we have Courtney, and then after that Justin, and then after that we're gonna discussion unless there's a motion to continue.
I just want to respectfully put this out there that I think I would just say not to assume anything at this point when it comes to deciding whether or not Dr. Young and the BPSA office will continue this type of funding this semester or not. And I would especially say like it is definitely an option that it could continue in the future. For full transparency, Tori and I, everyone here mostly knows that we work a lot with student organizations and we split the categories of those organizations between the two of us. And like we weren't even included in some of these conversations or the roundtables about intellectual sports, and like that work impacts us and shows up differently as well. So I think when it comes to like assuming those things, I would just be very wary of it and be very careful, and then consider the long-term impact that this is going to have, especially with budget reviews coming up, and what this means to like other categories that don't receive this type of funding, and how that shows up for them. So just want to put that out there.
Justin?
I mean, so I respond to like sort of that concern about clucking to turn down offers. Like, we specifically set apart like part of our off-campus budget for like them, and like I think we do a pretty good job of like finding fund, or trying to fund like all their events, like sending them to the places that they can go, like trying to get them some money.
I don't think it's a question of whether or not you guys did what you did for malicious intent or anything. You were doing what you did as a finance board. I think that that was being used to justify on top of the fact that they're not receiving department funding.
I guess
So like she was at least expecting that if department funding doesn't come through, SGA funding will.
Does that make sense?
yeah, but she sits on that. What's that thing called that held us up at the beginning of the year?
SAFRB.
Yeah, so why don't we just increase our budget to get more money to give them? Like,
So that's
you could give them the money.
that's a discussion for another point, with the enrollment drop expected to come. I'm happy to put time on our next meeting so we can discuss this a bit further, but since we are running very much over schedule, unless there's a motion to continue the discussion on this, I'd like to move to previous question and debate. All right, everyone okay with ending? All in favor, please raise your hands now. All opposed? All right. Does anyone have any announcements? Candace?
As you all may have read or deleted, I sent out an email. Asking if there were any volunteers who would like to go to Ellicott City tomorrow night to talk to some high school students, middle school students. I can't remember. Middle school and high school. Ilsa.
Ooh. Wait,
Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. I don't know who is calling.
Former president.
So, is there any interest from anyone here? It is. Where is it?
It's in the board of.
I'll go.
It's in Howard County. It's in the board of education. Or the Homewood
I'll
Center.
go. All my guys.
Okay, hold on.
Ellicott City's cute.
Oh yeah. Well, it's not in
Oh,
Ellicott
sorry.
City. It's actually like close to Columbia on the edge.
So Ilsa has said she is available.
I'll go.
And what was your, you had a former role in this, correct?
I was going to do that.
President, hold on, Ilsa Meter,
They don't know. I'll just text the president right now.
former president
Oh wow.
of
HCAS. Howard County.
HCAS
Those sports, right?
will be in attendance. Many thanks. I'm gonna CC you in this email from Colin. Colin is the one who forwarded the opportunity.
I'm okay.
2 hours.
That's
So,
I think on Monday.
Any other announcements? Zane?
Yeah, so, excuse me. Scott and I met with the, like, library administrative team, yesterday. And, there was just some, like, cool stuff that they were up to. And one of the things that we're gonna put for, like, student art resources is that they, I don't know if you guys know this, but they have a, like, digital media lab, and where you can rent, I mean, they're already loaning out, like, laptops and stuff like that, but they have, like, editing equipment, GoPros, cameras and stuff like that, so in case, organizations, like, want to take, you know, photography or something, but, you know, they don't wanna hire someone, or they just need, maybe, like, photography club or any of the other organizations that make media, could definitely use us. We're gonna put that as a resource. Oh, they're also doing kind of like they're putting an innovation and like makerspace in the library. So they'll be asking for like student input on that. So we're gonna put that out to like student art officers, but if anybody else like that catches their eye, they might, they're gonna develop a focus group to kind of see like what would go in there, what would it look like, and things of that nature. But yeah, so.
Francis?
I just wanted to say that I'm really excited. I know I like haven't formally been here for a full meeting. So I just wanted to say that I'm really excited for this semester. And I'm excited to be seeing what you guys have for the upcoming season. I know it's gonna be a lot, and I'm like, I fully wanna be here. And anything that executive branch can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out, to either me or Patrick. And, I'm hoping to have a mixer with all of legislative branch and executive branch, because some people have left, some people have come on, and I think it's about time you guys know everyone. So look out for that.
Sure. Josue?
Hola, everybody. As you know, Justin and I co-chair Staff Review Committee. Don't run out the room now. I know they didn't do their I haven't checked, but I know. Please be like cognizant of that. The reason why I say is because I think during our last SRC meeting, we were noticing that like a lot of people weren't filling them out, or it was very vague of what they were doing. So I'm expecting that like this quarter will be a little bit much more harsher on that. Simply because if I see your SRC weekly thing, that's the only thing I have to go off of what you did, and you have nothing there then. Yikes. Additionally, what else? Yeah, please fill those out. Also, since I have 3 out of the top 4 here, executive branch people, I need your 2 people. I need your 2 SRC representatives by this Friday, Valentine's Day, please.
Okay, Zane is one, but like no one in exec council responded to me, so.
Girl, you got more. You got other stuff.
I can't pick Joshua.
Is Joshua the only?
Why not?
Because he did it last semester.
Oh, yeah, you need to give some eyeballs.
So, the reason why I say this is because I know treasurer, vice president, student orgs.
Zane said he'd do it.
Zane said he'd do it, but I still need one more.
I know.
Reason why I'm like pushing on it is because I want to get these people up to speed on like how to do what they're supposed to be doing. Yeah? Yeah?
Can you just bug me about it? Because I honestly, like, I think about it one day, and then I'm like, let me send that email, and then I never send it.
Literally just sit down there, say,
Are the SRC
one of you guys don't do it, you're all
Are they
fired.
correct in the calendar?
The SRC dates are correct, yes.
Because I know last.
So,
Can you send me that info?
of course. So, yeah. Hamina.
Candace, I need to ask you a question real quick.
Any other announcements? Alright, before we adjourn, just a bit of information about our next meeting. Be prepared for a semi-long meeting. Next meeting we'll be doing discussion for the budget season. So as budgets are due in just over a month and 2 days until budgets are due, Scott will be starting treasury workshops, but next meeting will be a big planning one in terms of finding out when we have our secondary meeting dates, when we'll be doing those and booking locations for that. Additional things, prepping emails to be sent out to liaisons. Basically, it's our big pre-budget prep before the actual season comes in. So be prepared for some along, make sure you bring laptops with chargers. And if you guys are lucky and I remember, I may bring you guys some snacks for that meeting. That being said though, I recognize that I am present, Ilse is present, Justin is present, Ryan is present, Zane is present, Lisa is present, Nick is present, Scott is present. along with the president and Josue. You get a special category, our FYAs, assistant speaker Josue, my bad. FYAs and advisors, and we are adjourned.